We're talking ghost stories. We're talking adventure in the Himalayas. We're talking about bouncing back from a life threatening disease because in today's episode, we have one of the most interesting guests we've had on, Dr. Saurabh Rane. I'm not going to speak too much about his story because I want you guys to hear it from his mouth. What I will say is that this was a very hatke episode for me because recently my discovery has been that success isn't just money or fame or numbers for everybody. Success could mean different things. And at this stage, I'm going to turn 29 this year. For me, a successful person is someone who's got an accumulation of experiences in their mind, wider perspective. And that's exactly the kind of perspective I got from Dr. Saurabh Rane. Remember to follow the Ranveer Show on Spotify for even more exclusive perspectives. We are a Spotify exclusive now. Every episode is available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. And for now, this is Dr. Saurabh Rane with this exciting episode of the Ranveer Show. Enjoy yourselves. Welcome to the Ranveer Show, Dr. Saurabh Rane. One of the most exciting lives you've lived. I think a movie can be made on your life. So glad to have you on the show. Why don't you kind of recap your entire life to start off this podcast?
Wow, that's I'm going to take you out to pitch me when we go outdoors. That's the best pitch I've ever had, best introduction. But thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here. So I don't know if a movie should be made or not, but yeah, sure. I want to believe that I have had an interesting life. In short, I basically joined med school, specialized in physical therapy, worked in physical therapy for a while treating patients, got sick, spent 3 years on treatment, got better, always was into adventure, took a 3-year break, then went back to adventure. And through these ups and downs, I've learned a lot of things, a lot of interesting things. So maybe we can talk about that.
You dealt with tuberculosis like pretty early on in life?
Yeah, I was 21. Wasn't just TB, it was like extremely drug-resistant TB. Sounds like a very scary term because it is. Which basically means that most of the medicines that can cure you won't work on you. So you have like a very small chance. I had like a 10% chance of survival. But yeah, got through it.
And you used to play a lot of football before that. Were you going to go pro?
I didn't go pro, but I used to play with like state level players, a couple of national level players, a lot of football, did boxing for a while.
Wow.
So yeah, really, like I felt like fitness was like a big part of me.
And what did the TB do to your lungs?
So basically, we had the wrong diagnosis for 6 months. So I lost like both lower lobes of my lungs. So which basically means that no air entry, right? Which means
they had to surgically remove it.
No, basically what happens is calcium got deposited over there. No air entry happens after that. So we did not want to do a surgical intervention, but basically I have to live with the fact that I have compromised lungs and that affects my life in some way.
Even now you feel the effects?
Yeah, I mean, I can't have the stamina that normal people can have physiologically in some way. But I believe that if you push your body hard enough, you can do anything. So,
which is why you've adopted the mountains as your training ground, dude. The world of adventure. What's this whole vibe like in your life, man?
I feel like while adventure is definitely what I gunned for, I wanted my personality back. So, you know how everyone does a lot of things. But one or two things define you. For me, that was fitness. I'm like, if you think about Saurabh, the guy who plays every day, no matter what he plays every day. Now I'm sick. I sort of lost my lungs in a way. And now I can't do these things, right? So where is Saurabh? Who is Saurabh? So I went back to find myself in some way. And turns out it's a great feeling to like reinvent yourself.
Dude, but specifically about these adventures, how did that start? What have you done? Because we've had some Himalayan explorers on the show. This guy called Devang Thapliyal. That was possibly one of my best conversations that we've had on the show. And this guy's seen parts of the Himalayas like that no one has ever seen. He's seen like what he claims to be possibly alien structures. Yeah, he's gone really deep into the Himalayas.
Wow.
So where on that spectrum have your adventures happened? Because I know that the Himalayas are really big. And I'm assuming that that's your kind of place of choice.
I mean, yeah, once in 2 years, I tried to do a high altitude trek. Highest I've gone is 22,500, which is like 7,100 meters. On that spectrum.
Where is this?
So in Nepal, in Leh Ladakh. So yeah, Himalayas. Basically, yeah, that's where I try to go. But on that spectrum, I would be a beginner, man. These guys are pros. I'm a beginner on that one.
But what's it like up there, dude?
What's it like? It's lifeless, no trees, lack of oxygen. You wake up every day knowing that you have to walk the whole day, carry like 10, 20 kgs, and you don't know if you're going to wake up the next morning.
Why?
Avalanches. When I was like this last trek that I did in 2019 before the world shut down, I was trekking in Himal. That's the last mountain in the Annapurna range, right? Extremely cold. We were at Camp 1 and my French climbing partner was sleeping next to me, same tent. And we hear this loud sound like drrrr. And the first thought that came to my mind was, okay, am I going to go under like a heap of snow and is someone going to find me or not? That didn't happen. But the next morning we woke up and our Sherpa told us the entire Camp 3 is gone. Anyone who was in Camp 3, no tents are found, no people are found, no radio contact, nothing.
There was an avalanche.
There was an avalanche, yeah. The next night, sort of you come back. We went back to Camp 1, then Camp 2. Same thing happened. And we were supposed to go to Camp 3 in the next few days.
Wow, man.
So it's a choice you make that, yeah, I'm right there. I don't know if I'm going to wake up the next morning. But I think that's what makes the thrill, like, that's what gives you the thrill of being in the mountains.
Have you actually seen death up close?
Personally, I've experienced it and I've seen it also, like on my last expedition, the same one, a guy died. So we turned back because of bad weather.
What happened?
So basically the weather goes really bad as you go higher and higher sometimes, apart from just lack of oxygen, right? As you know, lack of oxygen means your decision-making skills are affected. So we turned back because the temperature was dropping really badly. The winds were bad. And we came across these 3 guys who were like sharing tents next to our tent. We told them that the weather's bad, turn back. That guy's like, no, I've done this before, right? I'm just going to keep going and we'll be fine. But thank you for like caring about us. We were like, listen, please just don't do this. And they're like, no, we're going to be fine. And they continued. And we didn't hear back from them for like 2-3 days. When we reached the base camp again, we got to know that out of 3 people, 1 died. One had his arm amputated and whatnot.
But what had happened?
So there's no way to find out. But the guy who actually dragged both of them, he said that the temperatures went so low and they were so tired because expedition nights are like 16, 18 hours long, right? They were so tired that one of them just like, he gave up. He just sat there. And yeah, he wasn't ready to move at all. And the other guys were like trying to drag him out of it. One of them had his arm exposed for a longer time and whatnot. So yeah.
Wow.
If I hadn't turned back, that would have been me.
So that guy basically just sat there and froze to death.
Yeah, he couldn't make decisions correctly. So they tried moving up and up. And once you reach a point, you need to have physical strength to come back down, right? You're on the rope. It's an incline that you have to come down from and whatnot. And sometimes you just give up mentally. Like you're done. You just know that, okay, now I cannot physically do this. And yeah, the guy who actually saved them was saying something like he asked us to like let go of him, but we didn't. Like they stayed that they got him back.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about mountain adventures is that low oxygen levels can actually play a lot with your head.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is something I've heard a lot of mountaineers speak about. But what does it actually feel like when you hit like those highest peaks of those mountains? What does low oxygen levels feel like?
Like you're high. Like you drank way too much alcohol to make any sense of anything.
And it just kicks in like
it gradually kicks in. But I feel like when you're physically tired, anyway, you're not in the right state of mind. Imagine low oxygen on top of that. So you lose like physical control. For example, the first expedition that I did in 2016, while coming back down, and most accidents happen on the way down, not on the way up. I was half asleep. I was going all over the place. I was falling down. I was getting injured. Thankfully, there were like 3 people on the same rope. And, like somehow we managed. And I felt it firsthand. And that's when I decided, like, if I'm going mountaineering, I'm going to train myself to go without sleep for 16 hours with a backpack while I'm in Mumbai itself. And if I can do that, then I will go back. So it took me 3 years to like mentally prep myself. And And yeah, I think that's why I made the right decision maybe. Yeah.
Dude, but when you come back down after, being in those low oxygen levels, does your consciousness kick in again? Like, do you or
Yeah.
does it kind of feel like being drunk? Because I remember back when I used to drink, if I had a night out, time would pass by really fast, especially after you're completely drunk, right? Like, you're looking at your watch, it's 8 p.m. and then suddenly it's like 2 a.m. Is it something like that where you don't know where the time has gone?
That's a good question. I don't think that's the case. It's very different. So the mental state of not having control on yourself is like you're being drunk. The difference here is, since you're not drunk, your brain is still trying to tell you to do the right thing, but you're physically not capable of it. It's like you're in sleep paralysis, right? Like you know what you have to do, but you just can't do it. And it has medical consequences. For example, low oxygen, you can have cerebral edema, you can have pulmonary edema. Which is basically edema is basically swelling, right?
With water.
So pulmonary edema is basically you start having water in your chest. It's like drowning in some way.
What do you feel? You feel like breathless?
You feel extremely breathless. You feel heavy. If you cough, it starts paining on your sides. That's like the first starting sign. Cerebral edema is basically your brain makes no sense of the situation. You can be minus 20 and you start feeling hot. You start taking your sweaters off. You start taking your down suit off. So your brain really can't function correctly when you're up there.
Dude, with these mountain adventures, in amongst all the kind of journeys you've been on your own adventures, what's like the most difficult day been like? Can you describe that? Like
the most difficult day?
Yeah.
Wow.
The most challenging moment from all your adventures?
That's a very interesting question. I think on a personal level, the most difficult day was when I got to know that the guy had died. I could have been that person, like if I hadn't turned back. And just thinking about what drove me to make the right choice, right? Like what was going on in my head that we chose to turn around. I could have also pushed out. I could have also done it. I could have also I had the physical strength to do it. I had trained for it and whatnot. So usually people think that the toughest moments are the ones where, you're like physically tired and you're so done with everything. For me, just before I got to know that the guy had died, I was having the regret feeling like, damn, should I have just pushed hard? Could I just have pushed a little bit harder? I could see the summit right there. I could have been there in 3 hours. Did I turn back? Was that the wrong decision? Did I just miss out on something? It takes 30 days just to get here. So I think for me, the toughest decision was turning back. Just the decision of turning back and yeah.
Dude, you described like the top of the mountains like barren and cold. But is there positive stuff on the top of those mountains also? Is it just like intense and dangerous?
Oh, positive stuff. You cannot feel what you feel unless you go out there. For example, when you go to Stoke Kangri, right? It's 21,000 feet. It's in Leh Ladakh. You go on top of the mountain. You can literally draw a line where on the left you see snow-clad mountains. On the right you see non-snow barren mountains. Like if you just look around you, the clouds are beneath you. You get to see these amazing things. And the feeling that you've gone through whatever you had to go through to come and experience this, breathe that air that you have out there, it's a feeling nothing else can give you. Like nothing. Nothing comes close to that.
Do you feel some sort of energy at the top?
Oh, absolutely.
Which is inherent to that particular mountain or that region?
So yes and no. I think every mountain is unique, right? Even if you go to Sahyadris in around Mumbai or Himalayas, every mountain has its own energy. It has its own history. And it's very palpable when you go there. Like the history makes sense to you. Like if you just go to a fort in Mumbai also, right? And you know the story of what happened there and how the rocks are built in a certain way, why they are over here. You feel the history. You connect with the story.
Yeah.
I feel like every mountain has its own energy.
Have you seen the Suri Fort here?
I have.
We used to go there a lot for shoots until we found out the dark history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we used to go there at about 4 p.m. and just stay there till about 6:30. And then it used to start becoming dark. And also, it's in a part of Mumbai which is kind of isolated.
Right.
It's behind the main city. Dude, and it starts getting a little creepy.
Yeah.
You just feel very eerie. I don't know whether it's because of the lighting or whatever, but later on we read how many kind of battles have happened on that particular fort pretty recently,
Yeah.
actually. You know the Siddhis? Have you heard of the Siddhis?
No, man.
It's this community of African warriors that were brought to
Oh.
India by the Mughals to fight
Okay.
in the Mughal army.
Hmm.
So the Siddhis, I believe, had battled with the Marathas, and this fort was a Siddhi fort. And there have been a lot of battles, lots of death that fort has seen. There's actually this section of the fort which is completely kind of packed inside. Okay, it's just two massive rooms which face each other, and I have reason to believe that they were some sort of a prison or something. You kind of walk inside this. There's no lighting.
Wow.
You feel the darkness, dude. I remember whenever we were shooting the Rajas and me, like you've met Rajas.
Yeah.
He's my camera person since years now. We just want to head out as soon as it's dark, dude.
Yeah.
Because it's so you just kind of don't want to be there. It's great for photography and videography, but it's too dark. Like just the energy of being there is dark, man.
Yeah.
Have you felt any dark energy on your adventures?
Dark energy, not really. I mean, not dark energy. I don't know how to like say this, but you do feel different. You feel like you know people have died on this path. You know that someone is walking on the steps that I walked, never made it back home, and I'm still like walking on this. It's a very different feeling. It's a very, very different feeling. And if you had to look at it from a very dark perspective, you feel like how many people had to die for someone to know how to tie the ropes correctly, for someone to know how this road like is safe, it's safe for people to go, and now you feel like, okay, damn, so many people died so I could succeed. Like, is that it? And again, this is just maybe my dark side, but
No,
yeah,
sure.
you have that feeling.
Sure. Have you seen any like wild animals on your treks?
I mean, mountain goats, that's about it.
Have you
There is
seen
no
it?
life. There is no life, right? Like, if you don't see trees, you won't see animals that eat grass and stuff. So till the point you can see grass, you will see animals. Once you cross that line, you're not going to see anything. We saw yaks at the base camp, but like that's about it.
What
That's
are they
about
like?
it.
Are they wild?
In some way they are. They are huge. They are huge. Like I'd never seen an animal that big before. I'd seen horses, not horses, mules, because they like carry all your stuff all the way to the base camp. So you see a lot of mules. But any life apart from humans at that point is such a bliss. Otherwise, you just see like these humans full of adrenaline wanting to like go to the top, and like there's just that rush everywhere, and like everyone just struggling to breathe, struggling to eat. You don't get hungry. You're supposed to like force feed yourself. So there's this, like there's this hustle at the base camp also when you're going up. And in the middle of that, you see this one yak who's like chilling. Like, you guys go ahead, man. I'm just gonna sit here.
Is it an aggressive animal at all?
Nope.
Just very chill.
Very chill. Very chill. Yeah. But you know these mules, right? Like they carry so much weight for us, like cylinders and whatnot. And sometimes on the way to the base camp, like it takes like 10, 12 days to just reach the base camp. Sometimes on these tricky turns, a mule falls down with all your stuff
What the
in it. Yeah. Like
falls down? You mean down the mountain?
down the mountain. Yeah. It just, yeah. And for me, I feel like if my stuff's gone, that's fine. Like some animal had to die so that I can go to the base camp. And this is not a necessity of my life. And why am I here? Like that's the first feeling that hits you. Like I'm here for my pleasure or my exploration in some way. I'm so privileged. But like an animal had to die so that I can get to the base camp. So like I go into that mode very quickly and then I snap out of it. But yeah, you get connected to animals, man. Like,
But this happens on the regular.
it happens quite often.
And how do they fall? They slip.
They slip. And they slip. So the roads are very narrow, right? Even like there are no fixed ropes or anything when you're going to the base camp. Like you stay in a village sometimes, or you like pitch your own tent or something. The roads are pretty narrow. Sometimes there's a slope and like you can just put 1 foot at a time and whatnot. And mules, it's with like 20 kgs, like 3 cylinders and whatnot. How do you expect them to do this when I can't do it with like 10, 20 kgs, right? So they fall sometimes.
You see the death happening?
Yeah, you do. Sometimes you even see them suffer.
Like what?
They break a leg, they hit a stone on the way down. And you have to go get your stuff if they're not too downstairs, like they are not too far away from you. You can actually like rappel down and get your stuff if you can. You see that broken leg, like them like screaming and yelling and whatnot. And yeah, man, it's painful.
But then what happened? They just left there.
No, so we keep moving. Sometimes one Sherpa like calls for help or something, they have these, these sat phones. So they try to do that. But if you can't see the mule, then yeah, it's gone. You can't do anything.
But the ones you can see are then rescued.
I have no idea. I just walked past them, unfortunately.
Damn.
Which is dark again, but yeah, you have to stay on pace. You have a very small window of climbing. If you miss that window, then you missed climbing for the season and you trekked all the way for nothing for people who just want to summit.
Yeah, I mean, I've had very little trekking experience. I've gone for a few hikes, but that's about it. I brought up this mountain in Jibhi we had climbed on. Jibhi is a place in Himachal Pradesh. Incredibly beautiful, incredibly spiritual, great energy in that mountain, man. But I remember when we were near the summit, our guide kind of told us to run, hit the summit, and then start returning because he could see a cloud formation happening.
Oh.
He could see clouds coming in, and that meant rain, which also possibly meant snow. It was during the winter. And it happened so fast. Like 1 minute it was sunny. The next minute it became like super gray. Okay.
Yeah.
And he just flipped out. And I realized how much of a slave to weather you are
Yeah.
on the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
And that made me think of you guys. Yourself, Devang, Kuntal. You guys, if y'all are in the middle of some big mountain, you all just have your tent, you can't even go back probably, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That must be a massive fear, just this grey cloud cover suddenly coming in.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand, especially if they've not climbed mountains, is that weather is extremely random at the top of a mountain. Like, you can't predict it.
That's very true. I think that's true for even sea. Like I go sailing sometimes with a friend of mine who knows how to like handle a sailboat all by himself and one other person. So there's no motor, no nothing. You're completely controlled by wind, right? And once he took me with him and he asked me to basically control the boat's direction or something. You realize how much of a slave you are. You can't control the tide. You can't control the wind. All you can do is like you can believe that you're in control and you can just be grateful that nothing bad is happening. Because in 1 second, the sea can change its mood and you're done.
This is outside Bombay?
This is slightly away from Bombay. Like you start from Bombay and then you can like go outdoors a little bit. I had no idea Bombay had like these sailboat races and whatnot. And yeah, that was the first time I explored it with him.
What's that like, dude? Like the sea that's kind of near Mumbai?
It's very commercial. But at the same time, if you make the right choices, for example, if you go with the right people, you can do like open sea diving, which is the
What the
yeah, like
near
open
Bombay?
Yeah, near Bombay. Yeah, you can go swim in the open waters and whatnot, and that's a very different experience from like being in a swimming pool.
Have you done this?
So I wanted to do it, but they say that you have to go observe for the first 1 or 2 times.
Why?
I don't know. They say it's a different feeling altogether. So though you've been in a pool, once you go into the water, the deep water, it changes how your mind like perceives how you float or something. Like it's very different.
Huh?
Yeah, it's very different. They say that open sea swimming is something that you should do with experienced people only, and that too after you observe once or twice. Like don't directly jump into the water.
But what do you think can go wrong?
I think you'll just freeze. Maybe that's the first thing that goes wrong.
As in your body will just...
Yeah, you just don't know what decisions to make. For example, when you're in a pool, intuitively, you like start moving your legs, then you start like swimming and whatnot. They say that when you're there, you just feel like you're not in control. Swimming in a swimming pool is a very controlled environment.
Is it because of wild animals?
Not just wild animals. It's because I think it could be the waves. It could be the depth. You don't know what's beneath you. You don't know how you're going to respond if something happens. There are no lifeguards. There is nothing. Even though you have people who might save you, it's a very different feeling altogether.
Dude, I would also assume that the sea near Mumbai, and by saying near, I mean like really close to the city, is pretty dirty. Like there's sewage, there's pollutants.
Yeah.
So how far in is this section of the sea that you're talking about?
I'm not really sure if I can quantify it, but it takes a while to get there. That's all I can say.
3 hours, 4 hours.
Maybe 2 to 3 hours because I honestly I slept because they leave so early in the morning. They also have their rules like when they swim, how they swim, etc. Then this
is somewhere between India and the Gulf, I'm assuming.
I mean, yeah, if you're near Bombay, there's just one direction you can go, right?
Maybe you can go down?
Yeah, but even then you'll be between the Gulf itself, right? Like we are on the same coast in some way. But like for me, like since we're talking about adventures, right? There is the mountains, there's the sea, and then there are these deserts. So I'd watched Marco Polo, and I thought it was really cool how the Silk Route was there, and the toughest patch in the Silk Route is the Gobi Desert. So I started researching. Turns out there are people who walk the entire Gobi Desert like they used to back in the day as a thrill right now. It's 1,000 miles. They walk it in 60 days. And turns out a girl from Pune who had a normal job, she's like 33 or 34. She did the whole thing. And now my next fascination is, dude, I need to train for this.
What the
I need to train for this. I want to walk through the entire Gobi Desert and see how that feels. I'm done with the mountains. I'm done with the sea. Not completely done with the sea, but I've experienced the sea a little bit. But now I want to go see how the desert feels. Like that's a different ball game altogether.
What do you think that challenge is? Like the heat, the dryness?
The heat, the dryness, the lack of life. I think the texture that you're walking on, it's very different. Like imagine rocks when you're in the mountains, then snow. Then you go down to like the water, there's buoyancy, right? Like you're floating and whatnot. And then you're walking in sand, which is extremely hot. The surrounding is different. You're like seeping your foot in every time you walk. You can't train unless you're like running on sand and whatnot. And just seeing the same thing every day. You're just seeing the same damn thing every day. What kind of mental conditioning do you need to go through 60 days of that?
That's where mirages come into play, right? Like maybe that's why they say that, oh, you see mirages in the desert.
Yeah.
Like you see a mirage, you think you're looking at something beautiful and then you go there and there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's your mind playing tricks on you.
Yeah. Mind does play tricks on you, right?
It might be that whole simulation where if you're actually seeing the same environment for such a long time, you start to go crazy a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Like people in the sea also, right? Like people who are on the sea for a very long time, they see nothing but water and the horizon. I have no idea what they go through.
Yeah, that's what they attribute mermaid sightings to.
Oh, really?
Like in olden times, sailors who used to claim that, oh, we saw a mermaid. People say that, no, you're just probably missing your girlfriend or your wife. And your mind is playing tricks on you because all you've seen for so many months is just the open waters.
Probably. But you know what? That's a very interesting point. Because I read somewhere that we know more about the space than we do about oceans. So who are we to assume that we know everything about the oceans and someone was just hallucinating? Or where do you draw the line between hallucinations and reality and whatnot? So whenever someone says something, I give them the benefit of doubt. Of course, I don't believe in mermaids, but I do feel like
there's some
there is
mysteries out there
something,
that we don't know.
100% there are mysteries out there that we don't know about. So like we were heading to Goa, 4 of us, and we stopped in a village. And village is not very well lit. So there was just this one small bridge and one like street light. And on the other side of the bridge was like this haunted house, right? All the villagers were telling us, like after evening, don't go there. There'll be ghosts, like someone was killed there, bodies are not found and whatnot. And they said the house lures you in, like it calls out to you. And we started laughing. We were like, you know what, nothing like this happens. So in the night we were walking back and we came across that bridge. And 4 dudes, right? And we saw a very pretty girl sitting over there. Like
What?
very pretty girl. Like someone that you can't imagine would be sitting in an attire in a village. And all 4 of us saw the girl because we all started talking like, dude, do you see that girl? She's so pretty. Like she's so good looking. Should we go talk to her? Should we say hi? And like, is she coming to Goa or not or something like that? And we walked past her, right? Because we couldn't make that leap. We didn't go and talk to her. We walked past
Could you
her.
describe the scene a little?
So that's when it gets like creepy. So we walked a little ahead and I was like, dude, I love girls who have short hair. And my friend says, are you crazy, dude? She had long hair. And the other friend says, yeah, man. I mean, I love girls who wear like Indian and whatnot. And my other friend says, no, she was wearing Western. So basically, we all saw something that would lure us closer to her. All of us saw different images of the same girl sitting right there.
What the
And I was like, man.
Could
Yeah.
you describe what you saw?
I saw a girl with short hair. She was wearing Indian. And she looked at me and she looked down in some way. And weirdly, that's what I find really attractive sometimes. When
Shyness.
you make eye contact and you shy away. And then, it's a sign that I'm shy, you should come talk to me or something. Like, how did whoever that thing was or what energy that was knew what I like? And it was showing me exactly what I wanted to see so that I would come to that side. And from there, I have just been like, okay, I'm not going to mess with energies I don't understand.
Have you encountered other energies on your adventures?
Yeah. So hallucinations when you're on the mountains and you have like low oxygen, sometimes you hallucinate. So I think this was when I was like extremely tired while we were going from camp 1 to camp 2. I could barely put like one step ahead of the next. So weirdly, I could hear my mom's voice calling out to me. saying that, come back. And I'm like, that is so weird. Like, I'm like, right, I just have to go there now. Why are you saying come back? Um, and then I looked around, I couldn't see anything. Then I saw some footsteps, and I was just very weird, just very, very weird. I did make it to camp too. Everything was safe. But yeah, I hear sounds. Sometimes I see footsteps. Sometimes you see someone near the next flag where you're supposed to go, but when you reach there, they're not there. So like lack of oxygen really plays with your head.
Or it unlocks portions of your head that,
That
you don't
yeah,
know exist.
that you don't know exists. Yeah, it gives you experience that you've not had before.
Yeah. A.R. Rahman was on the show and he spoke about how in Sufism, and this is not just Sufism, right? This is a lot of spiritual schools. They talk about filters that are placed in your head, and the purpose of these filters is that it filters out things that your mind is not ready to see yet.
Interesting.
So the purpose of spiritual growth is to remove these filters one by one. And as you grow spiritually, eventually you unlock so many filters that you're able to understand and observe and absorb things that a normal human would not be ready to observe, understand, and absorb yet. Maybe darker energies, maybe higher energies, maybe energies that, you know, are beyond your own understanding at this point. And that's one of the journeys of spiritual growth.
That's very interesting. You know, I've tried to like meditate and like try to become spiritual in that way. I suck so bad at it. Like I'm just not able to do it.
Dude, I mean, your
But-
mountaineering is
Yeah.
a sort of adventure.
I was
and
just going to
it's-
say that.
I mean, it's a
Sometimes-
sort of spiritual growth.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, right? Sometimes putting yourself in situations that you haven't been in before unlocks a part of you that you don't know, which also then like contributes to like how you see things, how you absorb things, how you feel things, etc. So while I like completely like I'm all for like go ahead, meditate, like, you know, have that spiritual growth in that way, I also think that like physically putting yourself in situations is a very different kind of physical and like spiritual growth in a
100%.
different way.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I was dealing with a really bad tennis elbow, and we were on this trek. We were on the infamous Kheer Ganga trek in near Kasol and Tosh and all that. And that was from my partian phase. But I had a really bad tennis elbow, dude. And on the way up to Kheer Ganga, we met this hermit, a sadhu basically. Very peaceful dude, sitting there, had a little cottage. And I went up to him and I said that, hey man, you're learned. Like I didn't say it like that. I spoke very peacefully, respectfully in Hindi. And I said that you're learned. And I've been dealing with this tennis elbow for so long. I've tried physiotherapy. I've tried all sorts of treatment and it's not leaving me. What do I even do? And he said that keep growing spiritually. Your spiritual growth will eventually heal this as well. And that's actually what happened in retrospect. I actually took up a Reiki course when I came back to Bombay. And the Reiki course was a big kind of healer for me for that tennis elbow. But what that hermit also told me is that spiritual growth people often assume is just meditation, but it's not like that. Drops fill up your cup of spirituality and eventually become an ocean of spirituality. So even when you're praying, even when you're just being a nice person, even when you're putting your mind and body through adventures, that's also spiritual growth. And eventually your cup keeps filling up, you become more self-aware, you become more spiritual, more of those filters get lifted off. And maybe one day you're in Goa with some friends and you see a woman outside.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But the physical therapist inside me like opposes this when you're healing your physical pain through like it's just medical bias, I guess, right?
No, dude, I hear you, and that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
But for me, one thing I've learned over the course of my own life is your experiences will never lie to you.
Oh yeah.
So I do feel that there's something in Reiki, and I've still not been able to put my, you know, like how, okay, when I was going through physiotherapy, I went to this good sports physio clinic, and they gave me something called electromagnetism treatment or something, where they put this
Like
device in.
ultrasound or something.
Yeah, they put this machine on your arm and they say that, listen, this machine, there's no scientific backing for this, but we've seen that it works.
Okay.
So let's try it. And they give it to you as the second or third treatment if needling and all that hasn't worked for you. Dude, and that gave me a lot of relief. Like that. But the pain came back eventually.
Yeah.
The pain only went when I went vegetarian and I combined it with Reiki.
Yeah.
Which is what we were talking about before the podcast actually began. No explanation for it, dude.
Yeah.
I asked some spiritual people later that why did this happen. So they said that your pain wasn't just a manifestation of physical injury, but it was also mental injury.
Yeah.
Like you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself, which you stopped.
Psychosomatic in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a linkage between healing and just mental peace.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I'm assuming that the biological side of healing is that your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, it reduces in your body. And when that hormone reduces, there's just more room for your healing mechanisms to kick in.
Yeah, that, and also, I mean, you've heard this term, right? Like, I'm not able to sleep because I'm stressed, or I'm not able to sleep because I have too many things on my mind. Dude, sleep is the ultimate recovery tool. You know, you can hit the gym 5 hours a day every day and not make a physique if you don't sleep properly. So I feel like when you're mentally sorted, you just sleep better. And sleep solves so many issues for you. And about Reiki and stuff, right? Like, I don't understand them, but I don't deny them either. Like, when it works, it works. And on a broader note, what it tells you is the world works very weirdly. Everything that works doesn't have evidence, but everything that has evidence is supposed to work for us.
Have you seen some intense shit, like how Devang saw alien structures? Have you seen any weird shit out there?
Weird shit.
Something that messed with your head.
I saw chunks of like frozen ice from the avalanche of the previous night, and I walked through them, which is in a way a little messy because you know that, oh, what I'm walking on right now just like damaged a bunch of people before. I haven't seen alien structures, but I've seen trees of a size I never imagined I would see. I've seen different colors which you wouldn't get to see here. Like I can't even describe them. They just glow. The flowers are very different. The green is very different. So like I said, right, you can't substitute that experience. Like I would love to talk about it, but unless you get there and you see it for yourself, you wouldn't realize what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, when I was there, I had this weird thought that are plants aliens? Because when we think about aliens, we give them like 3 heads, like 6 hands, because that's our imagination is so limited. What about plants? They would actually be aliens, right? They don't eat what we eat. They don't talk like we talk, but they are living creatures. They do grow. They use sunlight. They use soil. Like, could they be aliens? Yeah, this is the kind of weird thing that like occurs in your mind when you're like going through the mountains or doing adventure.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
I just want to know more about some other dangers you face, dude. Is there anything you've not brought up on this podcast yet?
I mean, dangers, yeah, this one trek that we were doing, a bunch of us started at like 9 o'clock in the night. And the summit usually means that you have to trek for like 10, 12 hours to get to the top and then another 4, 5, 6 hours to come back down. So on the way...
Where was this?
This was in Leh Ladakh. And on the way, we got stuck because there was a snowstorm. Half of the people decided that they would go back because they didn't want to take the risk. I was naive at that time. I decided that I'll just listen to what my team leader says or my Sherpa says. And he was like, let's wait for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and let's see if it goes away. If it doesn't, we'll have to turn back. But it'll become too dangerous if we don't turn back at the right time. So you guys decide. My suggestion is we wait for 20 minutes. And I was like, no, I want to go to the summit. Like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. The snowstorm went on for an hour and we were stuck there.
What does it feel like, dude? A snowstorm?
It feels heavy. Heavy on your body, heavy on your mind. You're just covered in snow, completely stuck at one spot with like your crampons on and like one foot is here, one foot is there. You have like this backpack with you. One person ahead on the rope, one person behind on the rope. And you're just standing waiting. Just waiting for something to happen.
Does it hurt physically?
Oh, of course it does. Yeah. Your ankles are not made to take so much weight and balance yourself for so long, right? So what you do is you find a spot where you can maybe park yourself, but you wait. So we waited. And after 20 minutes, our Sherpa said that basically now we should turn back. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I was stupid. So I said, no, let's wait. Fortunately, in like 45 minutes or something, it went off and like the weather cleared out. But during those 20 minutes plus to the next spot where the weather cleared out, everyone was shitting bricks. We couldn't go forward. We couldn't go back. People who hadn't made it till here had already turned back. People who were forward, half of them were going back initially itself. So basically, we became the first group that summited that day because everyone ahead of us went behind. But anything could have happened in those 20 minutes. Anything. Like someone could have slipped and fell down. Someone could have gotten sick and tired and decided, I don't want to do this anymore. Someone could have, basically like gone nuts. Like they could have started taking their sweater off or something because they were making bad decisions. Anything could have happened. Someone could have just slept because this was at 1 a.m. and people were already tired. Or we could just all get buried in snow. Or something like a rock would fall on top of us because when it does snow, sometimes like rocks become loose or something. You never know what's going to happen. So those 20 minutes is like jaan hateli pe lege. You're just sitting and waiting.
What were you thinking about, man?
I was thinking, am I making a stupid decision by saying that I want to stay and convincing 3 other people on the same rope? They're like, no, let's stay, let's do this. We want to summit. It's called the summit fever. Like this adrenaline that just keeps you going. Like, no, I want to go there.
Where your motivation takes over your logic.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why most injuries happen when you decline, when you're coming back down. Because now there is no summit fever. Now there is no adrenaline, nothing to like push you or look forward to.
Is this the closest you've been to death?
No, the closest was this other time, the 2019 trek. So there's like this 70-degree slope that you have to climb to go to Camp 3. We went from Camp 1 to Camp 3 in one day because we wanted to stay at Camp 3 and Camp 3 has only place for 2 tents. So you reach there and you camp out.
This is also in Leh Ladakh.
No, this was in Nepal, the last mountain in the Annapurna range. So while going there, the sun started going down because clearly we mismanaged our time. So our Sherpas went up. They started pitching the tent and like whatever, getting the heating the water and stuff. And when you do mountaineering, your day gear is different from your night gear because the sun is so hot in the day and in the night it's very cold. So we are barely layered, right? My climbing partner is a little bulky, so he takes time. So I make sure he's always in the front so that we don't lose him behind anywhere. So he was going up and the sun started going down and we were on this slope with like all our gear and like trying to hold on to ourselves. And the temperature dropped so suddenly that his hand started freezing. Like he couldn't like hold his Jumar and like push himself up. So you're supposed to like press down, go up, release so it gets like locked and then you pull yourself up. He couldn't do that.
And his hand wasn't moving.
Yeah, he's like, it's too cold. Like my hands are not moving properly because we were not geared for the cold, right? We had like these thin gloves. You need like proper gloves if you want to do that.
And you know, from a neuroscience perspective, your hands and your feet are the two sort of, what's the word for it? In physics, there's a device which is controlled by heat.
So basically they're insulators in some way?
They release heat.
Oh, yeah.
And they absorb heat.
Right.
There are points in your body which release and absorb heat. And your face.
Yeah.
Which is what people don't understand. You understand this after you've been in like extremely cold weather.
Yeah.
If your hands are warm, your body will also sort of start warming up.
Yeah. So that's why you wear socks, gloves, and you wear muffins, like you cover your ears and stuff. Yeah. That's exactly what started happening with him, right? He couldn't move after a point and he started screaming. And I'm like, dude, don't scream. You're not supposed to scream over here. You don't know if you'll cause any problems. So if there's a very loud noise, you could like trigger an avalanche or something. Like, so I'm like, don't scream. You know, our Sherpas will look down. They'll come get the gear for us and we'll be okay. And he's like, I can't move. And we stay there for 10 minutes. And 10 minutes is a long time when the sun is going down. And in that 1 minute, I thought, okay, I'm done now. That's it. If he doesn't move, I can't move. I was very tempted to go around him, which is very, very selfish. But when you're drawn down to that point where it's either I go around him and I survive, you make selfish decisions. So I had that thought. Of course, I didn't act on it, but I have to acknowledge I had that thought. You just think about yourself when you're in that situation. But yeah, my life like flashed before my eyes. And I was like, okay, maybe this is where, you know, like I'm not going to make it after this. Either I lose my hand or, you know, I let go and I like go down the rope, or I don't know what's going to happen. I just hope that our Sherpas like spot us on time, come back down and whatnot. Fortunately, they did. They did spot us. They came back. They helped us get up. We got in. My climbing partner's hand was completely blue. And, you know, it was, we basically got saved by the bell. Like it was a miracle.
What happened to his hand then?
Nothing. He was fine after that. It was turning blue. So he was fine after that. We gave him like a lot of heat and whatnot. You have these electronic machines now, right? Tech, So you could like heat your hand, and we got saved that time, and he didn't even attempt the summit. He's like, I'm done, man. I'm not gonna attempt also. I'm done. Like, this is as close to death as we get. I am done. I'm not even going to attempt. I, of course, went and attempted, but he didn't.
This boils down to your fitness or something in your mentality.
You can train as hard as you want mentally and physically. If nature doesn't want you to do something, you're powerless. The best of the mountaineers all face altitude sickness, right? No matter how much you train.
You've seen some shit happening because of altitude sickness
Oh, yeah. I've seen someone fall face first on a rock.
and die.
He didn't die, but he was seriously injured because he had no consciousness. Like he was trying to walk, and there was a rock up there, and he just like fell down face first. And he had to be rushed back from the base camp and then whatnot. So I've seen that happen.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy how we feel like we are in control and we can train ourselves and we can do everything, right? There are always elements in nature that humans can never control, and we just have to accept the fact that there are things that are way too more powerful than us.
Any last message, Dr. Rane?
Last message: live your life. Nothing can stop you. All problems are too small if you decide to do something about it.
Crazy. We'll be linking your handles down
Yeah.
below. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, man. This was awesome.
This was great.
Yeah,
this
this was
was these podcasts are
really
the most
cool.
fun for me. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me.
For sure. At the end of this particular episode, I felt like this man has 3 or 4 more podcasts in him. He's actually heading to the States to take up AI and learn more about it. And while I said that for me, success is all about gaining experiences, I also feel it's about what you do with those experiences in your mind. Dr. Saurabh Rane is inspiring all the people around him. Now, hopefully, he'll inspire all of you who are consuming his voice and his thoughts and his perspectives through the internet. For more inspiring and exciting perspectives like this, watch out for our future episodes of The Ranveer Show. Every episode is available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Dr. Saurabh Rane is going to be back on the show very soon.